Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. All right, DJ, you can turn it down now. All right. There we go. Welcome, welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here. We certainly appreciate it. Um, let's see. If you have not subscribed, please make sure you subscribe. We would love for you to subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. If you have not, what is the word? If you have not shared this, share it with your family, friends, and everybody. And what is the other thing? We are trying to reach a goal of 500 subscribers. So we want you to be a part of that effort. Go ahead and do that. If you haven't subscribed, again, make sure you subscribe. So we want to share a few announcements and thank our sponsors, and then we'll go ahead and get started. And tonight we are going to start in First Kings, and it's kind of starting something new. So every Tuesday, we are starting something new every Tuesday, 7 p.m. until 8 p.m. 1 hour, we are going to go through the word. So make sure you join us and go ahead and click that bell so that you know every time that we pop up so that you can be a part of it. We are having this Friday, the 15th. We are having midnight prayer. We want you to join us. We want you to be a part of it. We are only doing it on our phone lines. We right now we're not going to do it online on this channel. But go ahead and screenshot that so that you can call in. You have the access code so that you can be a part of it. We invite you to. Want to also remind you that our prayer intensive is happening. It is coming up on December the 7th on Saturday, but it is going to be in our Patreon. And so the way to join, you can see it there, patreon.com/Kim's Community. And we are going to learn how to pray, the types of prayers, the prayer watches. We're also going to go through activation. What does that mean? So from 9 until 11, we're going to do the teaching part. From 11 until 12, you are actually going to put into action what you have learned. And we're going to be in a closed community. It's not going to be open for the public consumption. So there's no need to be afraid or ashamed of what you're doing. We want you to be a part of it. Hey, good evening. Thanks for being here. Certainly appreciate it. So if you have not signed up for it, please go ahead and do so. The other thing, we have our Friendsgiving coming up, and it is for our patrons and our partners. It's our fall fellowship that's happening on November the 16th. They have all of the details. If you are a part of this community, you've gotten the information. We want you to go ahead and RSVP so that you can come in and have food and fellowship and fun with us. If you have not received a text message to be a part of tonight, make sure you sign up. Go ahead and go to text community at 866-939-6096. And when I say that, open up your phone as if you're going to send a text message. Type in the phone number 866-939-6096, and then put in the message part, type in the word community, KOMMUNITY. And we want to encourage you to do that. And hello, good evening to you, Bobby and Deborah. Thanks so much for being here. We appreciate your support. Let me see. One thing, I don't know if you guys were on when I did this. Of course, new night, new day. Bible study Tuesday, 7 to 8. Run through this real quick. Midnight prayer coming up this Friday. And the phone number is there. It's going to be on the prayer line only. Go ahead and screenshot that. And we are basically really going to be praying in the spirit. So if you're not with that or comfortable with that, you may want to skip that one out. But that's what we're going to be doing. I feel like that is the mandate for us there. And then want to encourage you guys about the prayer intensive. Bobby, you and I have talked about that. So you're all taken care of. Looking forward to seeing you. And then, of course, the Friendsgiving. So we want to thank our sponsors, Boom Boom Podcast, Young People Nation, every Thursday at 12 noon. They have some wonderful conversations hosted by Eugene and Donna Perry. We call them Team Perry. Love that so much. Today is your day. Davis Consultants, thank you so much for being a sponsor for us, or a partner, I should say. They come on every Friday, 12 noon Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern Time. They're live on Facebook and YouTube. And also Montre Roberts, every third Sunday, a word and a song. She has an absolutely beautiful voice and quite an anointing. And so go ahead and support her and all of them in anything that happens. All right, guys, we're going to First Kings. I'm going to put that there, and we are going to start reading. I know that we were in John before we kind of made this transition, so to speak. But I just feel like, not I feel like, I want to go to Kings. I want to go to First Kings. So we didn't finish John. Maybe we'll go to that. But this is where we are, First Kings. And in First Kings, there are like, this chapter is long. The first chapter, it's got like 50 some odd, it's got 53 verses to it, but we're going to make it through. So some of these names are going to be the best I can pronounce. How about that? Some of these names will be that. Glad that you guys are here. All right. First Kings, the first chapter, verse 1. And I believe this is the King James Version. All right. Now King David was old and stricken in years, and they covered him with clothes, but he could not stay warm or get heat. Wherefore his servant said unto him, let there be sought after for my lord the king a young virgin, and let her stand before the king, and let her take care of him, and let her lie in his bosom, that the lord the king may get heat. So they looked for a fair damsel throughout all of the coast of Israel, and found Abishag, a Shunammite, and brought her to the king. And the woman was very fair, and cherished the king, and took care of him. But the king knew her not. Basically, he didn't have relations with her. Then Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. And he prepared his chariots and his horsemen and 50 men to run before him. His father had not displeased him, or said not to do it at any time during this. So why hast thou done so? And he also was a very godly man, and his mother bare him after Absalom. And he conferred with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and with, okay, wait, I need to read this out of another version because it's missing some of the translation. I mean, some of the information, or else I'm just missing it with all the these and thous. So I'm getting ready to look at this in another translation, First Kings, maybe the NIV. Or you know what? Maybe the Message. That would be a good one, huh? Let me see. King James. And I should have talked about the kings, but maybe I'll do that next time because I haven't researched all of that. I'm going to say Message. That's going to make it super simple. The Message Bible. Okay. Here we go. We're going to start over. Ha 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 ha. And the king grew old. The years had caught up with him. Even though they had piled blankets on him, he couldn't keep warm. So his servants said to him, we're going to get a young virgin for our master, the king, to be at his side and to look after him. And she will get in bed with you and arouse our master, the king. So they searched the country. That's a very different reading so far, huh? All right, Message Bible coming through with the details with the 2024 version. So they searched the country of Israel for the most ravishing girl that they could find. They found Abishag, the Shunammite, and brought her to the king. The girl was stunningly beautiful. She stayed at his side and looked after the king, but the king did not have sex with her. And we didn't get that from the first reading, did we? So anyway, and verse 5, at this time, Abijah, with whose mother was Haggith, puffed himself up, saying, I'm the next king. And he made quite a splash with chariots and riders and 50 men to run ahead of him. His father had spoiled him rotten as a child and never once reprimanded him. Besides that, he was very good looking and the next in line after Absalom. Hey, how are you? Thanks for joining us. So Adonijah talked with Joab's son, the Zeruiah, the son of Zerah, and with Abiathar, the priest, and they threw their weight on his side, or they supported him. They were behind him. But neither the priest Zadok nor Benah, son of Jodabah, nor Nathan the prophet, nor Shimei and nor David's personal bodyguards supported Adijah. And it was almost like an election or whatever. We don't know whatsoever way you pronounces them is all right. I know, right? I appreciate that. You're looking to the NKJV. You're following. Oh, thanks for following, though. Man, but this, I'm gonna start using the Message Bible because it made it super plain. And the point is to get understanding, not to read it that it's like thee, thou, and thou. You know what I'm saying? Because when I was reading that, I was like, I don't even understand. I knew what the story was, but I was like, I don't even understand what I'm reading. So this really just makes it, like I said, 2024 edition. So Nathan went to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother. Did you know that Abijah, Haggith's son, has taken over as king and our master David doesn't know a thing about it? Quickly now, let me tell you how you can save both your own life and Solomon's. Go immediately to King David, speak up. Didn't you, my master, the king, promise me your son Solomon would be king after me, and sit on his throne? And sit on my throne. So why is Abijah now king? While you're there talking with the king, I'll come in and corroborate your story. So there were some dealings going on, like those backroom deals they talk about. But they were just bringing to King David's memory what he had said about Solomon being the next king, but also the fact letting the king know that, hey, some stuff is happening and you don't even know. All right, verse 15, Bathsheba went at once to the king in his palace bedroom. He was so old. Abishag was at his side, making him comfortable. As Bathsheba bowed low, honoring the king, he said, what do you want? My master, she said, you promised me in God's name that your son Solomon would be king after me and sit on my throne. And now look what's happened. Abijah has taken over as king, and my master, the king, doesn't even know it. He has thrown a huge coronation feast with cattle and grain and sheep and goats, inviting all the king's sons, the priest Abiathar and Joab, head of the army, but your servant Solomon was not invited. My master, the king, every eye in Israel is watching you to see what you'll do, to see who will sit on the throne of my master, the king, after him. If you fail to act, the moment you are buried, my son Solomon and I are as good as dead. Wow, this is almost like a soap opera for real. All right, remember, we're in 1 Kings, the first chapter. We are at verse 24 or 23. Abruptly, while she was telling the king all of this, Nathan the prophet came in and announced, Nathan the prophet is here. He came before the king, honoring him by bowing deeply, his face touching the ground. My master, the king, Nathan began, did you say Abijah shall be king after me and sit on the throne? Because that's what is happening. He's thrown a huge coronation feast with the cattle and the grain and the sheep, inviting all of the king's sons and the army forces. Abiathar the priest also invited. They're having a grand time eating and drinking and shouting, long live King Adijah. But I wasn't invited, nor was the priest Zadok, nor Benani, the son of Jehimmah, nor your servant Solomon. Is there something that my master the king has done behind your backs or behind our backs, not telling your servant who you intended to be king after you? Now, this is like the young and the restless. So, verse 28, King David took action. Get Bathsheba back in here. She entered and stood before the king. Verse 29, the king solemnly promised, as God lives, the God who delivered me from every kind of trouble, I'll do exactly what I promised in God's name. And God of Israel, your son Solomon will be king after me and take my place on the throne, and I'll make sure that it happens this very day. Bathsheba bowed low, her face to the ground, kneeling in reverence before the king, and said, oh, may my master, King David, live forever. Well, King David said, call Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benani Benani, the son of Jehoiada, they came to the king. Verse 33. Then he ordered, gather my servants, then mount my son Solomon on my royal mule and lead him in a procession down to Gihon. When you get there, Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet will anoint him king over Israel. Then blow the ram's horn trumpets and shout, "Long live King Solomon." You will then accompany him as he enters and takes his place on my throne, succeeding me as king. I have named him ruler over Israel and Judah. Isn't it funny that we're even reading this right after an election has happened? And he's just saying, like, this, say that one party is like, oh, I'm going to be king. I'm going to assume the kingship. And they're already throwing a party. They're throwing the victory party and all that. But then the king is like, okay, this is what you do. And the king had the authority, of course, to anoint who was going to be the next king. And that's what he did. He didn't go in and bust up the party. He just walked in with the authority that he had to set things straight. So let that be a lesson to us, that no matter what is happening around us, no matter what other people are doing, when you have the authority, when you have God's word on something, you walk into the place, you walk into the situation, even if you're going in by the Spirit, you walk in with all confidence, knowing that God has put you in that set place. Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us tonight. Put you in that set place. Okay, verse 36. Benani, son of Jehoiada, backed the king. Yes, and may God, the God of my master, the king, confirm it. Just as God has been with my master, the king, he also be with Solomon and make his rule even greater than that of my master, King David. Then, in verse 38, then Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, and Benani son of Jaba, and the king's personal bodyguard went down, mounted Solomon on King David's mule, and paraded with him to Gihon. Zadok the priest brought a flask of oil from the sanctuary and anointed Solomon. They blew the ram's horn trumpet, and everyone shouted, "Long live King Solomon." Well, wow, wow, wow. Look at what has happened. The people were partying with the other candidate, for king. The people were partying. They were eating and drinking and being merry. But as soon as that king's trumpet blew, they were like, hey, we're going over here. Like, no loyalties at all. They were just trying to be in with the in crowd. So keep that in mind as we are going through life, that sometimes people are around for what they can get from you. And as soon as a better option appears, they'll go to that. So just a word to the wise, or encouragement, I guess, when you make decisions or when you're doing things, ask God to show you kind of who to connect with, who to follow. And if you're in a place where people are following you, ask God to give you wisdom about the people that are around you. Okay. Everyone joined the fanfare, and the band played, and the people sang. The very earth reverberating sound. I mean, they were singing at the top of their lungs. Yes. So verse 41. Adonijah and his guest were finishing their coordination feast when they heard the sound. When Joab heard the blast of the ram's horn trumpet, he said, "What's going on here? What's all of the uproar?" Verse 42, suddenly in the midst of questioning, Jonathan, the son of Abiathar, the priest, showed up. Adonijah, welcome, a brave and good man like you must have good news. But Jonathan answered, "No, not good news. Our master King David has just made Solomon king, and the king has surrounded him with Zadok the priest, Nathan the prophet, Benaniah the son of Jehoiada, and with the people around him, the armies. They mounted Solomon on the royal mule. Zadok, the priest of Nathan, and Nathan the prophet have anointed him king in Gihon, and the parade is headed up this way, singing a great fanfare. The city is beside itself. That's what you're hearing. Here's the crowning touch. Solomon is seated on the throne of the kingdom, and that's not all. The king's servants have come to give their blessing to our master, King David, saying, God make Solomon's name even more honored than yours, and make his rule greater than yours. On his deathbed, the king worshiped God and prayed, Blessed be God, Israel's God, who has provided a successor to my throne, and I've lived to see it. Okay, we know what's happening here. Thank goodness for the Message Bible translation. All right, verse 49. So panicked, Adonijah's guests got out of there, scattered every which way. But Adonijah himself, afraid for his own life because of Solomon, ran to the sanctuary and grabbed the horns of the altar. So this man had decided to make himself king and to go out of the boundaries of his, hey, welcome. Good evening. Tonight we are in First Kings, and we are at verse 49. For some reason, I didn't think I was going to get through all of this, but I did. It's a story. It's almost like The Young and the Restless. But we are talking about King David getting ready to pass away. He's old in age, and one of his sons has said that he was going to ascend to the throne. Well, King David's one of his wives, Bathsheba, there's a whole story behind that. Bathsheba was like, hey, king, you said that you were going to make my son Solomon the king after you. So this is what's going on. You don't know what's happening behind closed doors, but I'm here to tell you. So while she was talking to King David, then the Nathan the prophet came in and was like, hey, king, let me tell you what's going on. It was like, your other son is like saying that he's going to be king. And meantime, Bathsheba and Nathan the prophet had orchestrated all this. Nathan the prophet said, you go in and you tell the story, then I'm going to bust in while you're in there talking to the king. And so that's what happened. And so then what had happened was they came in, and Nathan the prophet said, what he said really corroborated what Bathsheba was saying. And so David said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to call the priest. I'm going to call my leader of my army. I'm going to call in the prophet. I want y'all to go and put like my kingly carpet on the donkey. And then you put Solomon up there, and you take the horn, you march him down the middle of the town so that everybody can see it. And they see that he's on the king's mule. So they know that this is authorized by King David. Now, this is going to be the real person, not the fake person. This is the real one, not somebody self-appointed. And when you get to a certain point, that's when you blow the horn, and people are going to know that Solomon has been authorized to be the king after David. Got that, Alicia? And everybody that wanted to be caught up, that's what is happening. Okay, so verse 49. Panicked. Okay, all of the guests got out of there. Verse 51. We're still in First Kings, the first chapter. Verse 51. Solomon was told, Adonai, fearful of King Solomon, was taken sanctuary and seized the horns of the altar, and is saying, I'm not leaving until King Solomon promises that he will not kill me. Wow, he knew how much power King Solomon had by being officially appointed as king. And he knew that he was doing wrong. I'm talking about this Adonijah guy. All right, verse 52. So Solomon then said, if he proves to be a man of honor, not a hair on his head will be hurt. But if there is evil in him, he will die. Solomon summoned him, and they brought him to the altar. Adonijah came and bowed down, honoring the king. Solomon dismissed him and told him to go home. How interesting. And I'm telling you, that's better than the Young and the Restless. All right, so that is First Kings, the first chapter. We are going to go to the second chapter. This is a cool story. Anybody ever heard that story before? And while I'm switching to the second chapter, some of you are new. I want you to put eyes on this. Just reminding you real quick that we have Bible study every Tuesday, 7 till 8. It's our new day, new time. On Friday, midnight, we are going to do prayer. It's only going to be online. So screenshot this so you'll have the prayer line and the access code. And most of it is going to be us praying in the spirit. We are praying at 12 midnight. So be sure to join us. Want to encourage you, if you haven't already, sign up for that prayer intensive. The only way to join, it's going to be on patreon.com/Kim's Community. Go ahead and take a screenshot. It is going to be from 9 until noon. 9 to 11 is the teaching. 11 to 12, you are going to activate and do what you have learned. What are you going to learn? You're going to learn how to pray. You're going to learn the types of prayers. You're going to learn the prayer watches, and it's going to be activation from 11 until 12. And lastly, if you haven't RSVP'd, if you are in the CSRA area, in the Augusta area, we're having our fall fellowship, which is November the 16th. We're having our Friendsgiving, and you should have gotten a flyer for that if you are a part of this community. All right, let's go to First Kings. Now we are in the second chapter. All right, verse 1. When David's time to die approached, he charged his son Solomon, saying, I'm about to go the way of all the earth, or basically about to die. Wait a minute. This is still message. Okay. I'm about to die, but you be strong. Show what you are made of. Do what God tells you. Walk in the paths he shows you. Follow the life map. Absolutely. Keep an eye out for the signpost. Of course, for the signpost, his course for life set out in the revelation to Moses. Then you'll get on well in whatever you do and wherever you go. Then God will confirm what he promised me when he said, if your sons watch their steps, stay true to me, heart and soul, you'll always have a successor on Israel's throne. It's important, and I'm saying this, parents, it's important for you to speak wisdom into your children. I was going to say positive things. It's important to speak positive things into them, even if they're not doing what you think that they should do, because as a parent, your words carry so much weight. Even if a child is like, I don't want to hear this, or they act like they're not listening. Yeah. Even if they act like they're not listening, think about your parents. And if there was something that you wish your parents would have said to you, or something that you think would have put you on a better course or given you the self-esteem that you needed, you're longing for that secretly. You may have covered it up and you may haven't thought about it. Maybe you haven't thought about it in a while, but I want you to think about how you can change the trajectory of your child's life just by speaking life into them. Say something. And here's the crazy thing. As the adult, sometimes it's a little scary to be so vulnerable to children, to your children. Isn't that something, how you can say, I don't want to say negative things, but you can say just kind of everyday things to them and not think anything of it. But their hearts are so open to you as their parent because of the connection, because of the relationship, because of the love. What you say to your children, it gets put in the heart, the bank of their heart, and it starts to grow roots. So I want to challenge you, parents, and even if you have grandchildren you're raising, or if you have nieces and nephews who are around you, I want you to, let me think, two things. One, and you're the adult now, I want you to look at your child in their eyes. And they may not be living the life that you want them to live, but that's beside the point. I want you to look at your child in their eyes and tell them, I love you with my whole heart. And just leave it at that. I've done that to my nephews and to my nieces. I'm like, come here. And I'll look at them. And I'm like, I love you with my whole heart. I'm telling you, if you're a spiritual person, and maybe not even spiritual, but I'm saying this, if you're a spiritual person, you can feel kind of those walls breaking down, whatever those walls of apprehension. It may not even be walls to like keep you out, but it may be walls of like apprehension or something. You can feel those walls breaking down a little bit. And you can almost, and then watch their behavior after you do this. They're gonna feel like they're close to you. Do you know what I mean? You're gonna watch the way their body language, watch kind of the way they want to be around you, watch the conversations that they feel open to have with you. Don't get surprised about anything. Because if you act surprised or act shocked or act like, oh my gosh, or you say something that that makes them feel condemned about what they're telling you, then they will shut down. So you got to do game face. When they're talking, you got to be like, oh, really? Okay, so what do you think about that? Even though inside you're like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I'm telling you, you have got to be the cheerleader for your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews. You've got to be their safe place. When they know they can't go anywhere else, you can't be the person that condemns them, but make them think about the choices that they make. Make them think. Make them think about the people that they're hanging around. So where's your friend going? Where's your friend going to be in 2 years? Where's your friend going to be in 5 years? And you're hanging with them. Where do you think you'll be? Just think about that. You know, you're better than that. You know, you're better than those actions. Not necessarily, I don't want the conversation to be that you're better than that person, but you're better than those actions that you're exposing yourself to. Come on, moms, dads, uncles, aunts, grandmas, grandpas. We've got a job to do and we can do it. We can ask God to give us wisdom. So I love that David is speaking to his son Solomon, and he is telling him to do what God tells you to do. Walk in the paths that he shows you. In other words, maintain a relationship with God, because he talks to you and you can hear him. And we've got the big picture of this story. We know what happened after David passed away, because Solomon became one of the wealthiest and wise, the wisest man in the earth. And I believe that a lot of it had to do with this conversation here, him knowing that his father believed in him to do the right thing. I do that quite often with my daughter and grandkids. I love that. And I bet you can feel like a closeness with them, not just on your part, but on their part, because they trust the words that you say by looking at them in their eyes, eyeball to eyeball. And you might be a little nervous to do it, but remember, you're the adult and you set the tone, whether positive or negative. So set a positive tone. Look at here, youngster. Look at here, youngster. I love you. I loves you. All right. We are in 1 Kings, the 2nd chapter. We are at verse 5. And don't forget that Joab, son of Zerah, don't forget what Joab, son of Zerah, did to the 2 commanders of Israel's army, Abner, son of Ner, and Amasa, son of Jether. He murdered them in cold blood, acting in peacetime as if it were wartime. Love that, Bobby. In peacetime, as if it were wartime, and has been stained with that blood ever since. Do what you think is best with him, but by no means let him get off scot-free. Make him pay. So King David is telling him, listen, you got to set the rules, the law. You got to lay down the law, right? You've got to lay down the law. That's what I'm trying to say, right at the beginning. So he's telling him, make him pay. Don't let him get off scot-free, because he killed somebody in cold blood. We weren't even at war. He was just killing them all willy-nilly. You cannot let that go on. Okay, that's another lesson. Cannot let that go on. If you're a manager, if you're even parents at home, whatever. If somebody does something wrong, you need to address it. That is the whole point. You need to address it. Oh, because they know you're going to tell them the truth. Absolutely. Kids respect that. Kids respect the truth. Seriously. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure I was up to date with all of the. Thank you guys for being so active in the chat. You can't let it grow, and you can't let, I don't want to say people get out of hand, but you just cannot let it grow, because it's almost like the bad apple in the bunch of all the good apples. If you let the badness stay, it's going to grow, because either people are going to say, well, they got away with it, so why won't, well, then maybe I should do it so I can get what I want. Or the stinking thinking will spread from one person to the next. Okay, verse 7 in 1 Kings, the 2nd chapter, verse 7. But be generous to the sons of Brasilia and the Gileadite. Extend every hospitality to them. That's the way they treated me when I was running for my life from Absalom, my brother. Wow, he's giving him a rundown on the history of what has happened to him and how to manage these people. And he's saying, be good to these people because they were good to me when I had no place else to go. You have got to know that when you are good to people, that even if there isn't a physical person that is telling someone to be good to you, to repay you for what you've done, you've got to know that God will put that in someone's heart and in their spirit to be good to you because of the seeds that you've sown in the past, or the seeds that you've sown. Somebody sent me a text message, and I haven't talked to this person in a while, and they were just like, hey, was thinking about you, was praying about you, hope everything is well, but just wanted to say hello and, just make sure you were okay. I believe that's people are praying for me because I've prayed for other people. So be careful or be mindful of what you do and how you affect other people's lives, because you do reap what you sow. Verse 8, you also will have to deal with Shimei, son of Gera, the Benjamite from Baram, the one who cursed me so viciously when I was on my way to Manamiah. Later, when he welcomed me back at the Jordan, I promised him under God that I wouldn't put him to death, but neither should you treat him as if nothing ever happened. You're wise. You know how to handle these things. You'll know what to do to make him pay before he dies. Wow. So David wants him to honor what he told this individual, but yet again, he's like, don't let him get away thinking that he can get off scot-free. You've got to make sure he knows that what he did was not right. Verse 10. Then David joined his ancestors, or he died, and he was buried in the city of David. David ruled Israel for 40 years, 7 years in Hebron, and another 33 in Jerusalem. Solomon took over on the throne of his father David. He had a firm grip on the kingdom. And that is one thing about being a successor, passing things down to those behind you. Make sure you have those pertinent conversations with your family members about where things are. I know David was telling Solomon about people and how he should rule the kingdom and how Solomon should deal with certain people. But I'm using this as a commercial break to say, if you have a will, if you, get your things in order, have bank account numbers in a place where your family can find them. If you pass away, have your bank account numbers, your passwords to your accounts online so that they can get in. Show them kind of where all the important papers are, so that they can find those things. Again, I know this isn't what David was talking about with Solomon, but I'm just saying this. Make sure you don't have to show them what it is, but make sure a trusted person, you can say, this is where all of my pertinent information is, and update it as you change passwords and things of that nature, so that they don't have a hard time just kind of wrapping up your estate when you aren't around, and there's no way for them to find out certain things because you aren't there anymore. All right, verse 13. Adonijah, son of Haggith, came to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, and she said, do you come in peace? He said, in peace I come. And then, may I say something to you? Go ahead, she said, speak. And you know that I had the kingdom right in my hands, and everyone expected me to be king. And then the whole thing backfired, and the kingdom landed in my brother's lap. God's doing. So now I have one request to ask of you. Please don't refuse me. Go ahead and ask, she said. Ask King Solomon, he won't turn you down, to give me Abishag the Shunammite as my wife. Now, Abishag was the woman that they found to be with King David when he was really on his deathbed. So this guy is coming back saying, this is what I want. So Bathsheba said, certainly, I'll speak to the king for you. Bathsheba went to the King Solomon to present Abijah's request. The king got up and welcomed her, bowing respectfully, and returned to his throne. Then he had a throne put in place for his mother, and she sat at his right hand. She said, I have a small favor to ask of you, and don't refuse me. I should start saying that. Friend, Montre, I have a small favor to ask of you. Don't refuse me. Or Alicia or Bobby, I have a small favor to ask of you. Don't refuse me. I kind of like that. And the king replied, go ahead, mother. Of course, I won't refuse you. And that's what I expect to hear from y'all when I ask. And so, just teasing. And so she said, give Abishag the Shunammite to your brother Adonijah for his wife. And King Solomon answered his mother, what kind of favor is this, asking that Abishag the Shunammite be given to Adonijah? Why don't you just ask me to hand over the whole kingdom to him on a platter, since he is my older brother and has Abiathar the priest and Joan son of Zebediah on his side? Ooh, I didn't think that would be a hard request, but King Solomon was irritated by that. All right, verse 23. Then King Solomon swore under God, may God do his worst to me if Adonijah doesn't pay for this with his life. As surely as God lives, the God who has set me firmly on the throne of my father David and has put me in charge of the kingdom, just as he promised, Adonijah will die for this today. Now, wait a minute. This went left really, really fast. This went left really fast. So he came to him and was like, can I have the handmaiden? And she was like, that doesn't seem like a big deal. Sure, I'll ask the king. She asked the king, and the king was like, as surely as I live, he is going to pay for this. Wow. Okay, talk about bad blood. There was obviously, King Solomon was irritated with his older brother, because probably for other things, but because of partly because of this takeover that he tried to do to be the king without King David's blessings. Okay, verse 25. We're in 1 Kings, the second chapter. We're at verse 25. So King Solomon dispatched Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, and struck Abijah, and he died. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. He killed him. He killed him. He killed him. Because the young and the restless ain't got nothing on this. He killed him for asking for this handmaiden. It wasn't just because of that, but there was bad blood between the two. Okay, verse 26. The king then told Abiathar the priest, you are exiled to your place in Anathoth. You deserve death, but I'm not going to kill you for now anyway, because you were in charge of the chest of our ruling God in the company of David, my father. And because you shared all the hard times with my father, membership has its privileges. It saved his life. Right? I know, right? Verse 27, Solomon stripped Abiathar of his priesthood, fulfilling God's word at Shiloh regarding the family of Eli. Okay, wait a minute. I need to go back, because The king, okay, verse 23. Y'all help me with this because I'm a little confused. The king Solomon was saying, may God do his worst to me if Adonai doesn't pay for this. Adonijah doesn't pay for this. Basically, Adonijah was the one, I don't know what else he did. Let's see. Let me back up. 22. King Solomon answered his mother, what kind of favor is this, asking that Abishag the Shunammite be given to Adonijah? Why don't you just ask me to hand over the kingdom to him? And verse 23, then King Solomon swore under God, may God do the worst to me if Adonijah doesn't pay for this with his life. And then verse 23 or 25, it says, King Solomon dispatched Benaiah, son of Jabal. He struck Adonijah and he died. Okay, that was verse 25. Then verse 26, then the king told Abiathar, the priest, your exile. Oh, these were friends. Okay, that's where it was. These are friends of Adonijah, the older brother. So the priest, Abiathar, the priest, the king told him, you're exiled to the place. I got you. I was confused there for a second. His running buddy, the priest. So the one guy died, Adonijah died. And so his running buddy, the priest, Abiathar, the priest, he was exiled to the place. He said, you deserve death, but I'm not going to kill you because you helped my father during hard times. Verse 27, Solomon stripped Abiathar of his priesthood, fulfilling God's word at Shiloh regarding the family of Eli. Verse 28, when the news reached Joab, this Joab who had conspired with Adonijah, another running buddy, he took refuge in the sanctuary of God, seizing the horns of the altar and holding on for dear life. King Solomon was told that Joab had escaped to the sanctuary of God and was clinging to the altar. He immediately sent Benaiah, the son of Jabal, with orders to kill him. Yeah, he was over his brother. Okay, verse 30. Benaiah went to the sanctuary of God and said, the king's orders are for you to come out. He said, no, I'll die right here. He was like, oh, this is crazy. This is the Bible, y'all. The Bible. This is so funny. Not funny. This is like, oh my goodness. Then Benaiah went back to the king and reported. This was Joab's answer. The king said, go ahead then, do what he says. Kill him, basically right there. Kill him and bury him. Absolve me and my father's family of the guilt from Joab's senseless murders. God is avenging those bloody murders on Joab's head. Two men he murdered, men better by far than he ever was. Behind my father's back, he brutally murdered Abner, son of Ner, commander of Israel's army, and Amasa, son of Jether, commander of Judah's army. Responsibly for their murders is forever fixed on Joab, and his responsibility for their murders is forever fixed on Joab and his descendants. But for David and his descendants, his family and kingdom, the final verdict is God's peace. Verse 34. So Benaiah, son of Jada, went back and struck Joab and killed him. He was buried in his family's plot out in the desert. The king appointed Benaiah, son of Joda, over the army in place of Joab and replaced Abiathar with Zadok, the priest. Verse 36. The king next called in Shimei and told him, build yourself a house in Jerusalem and live there, but you are not to leave the area. If you so as much cross the brook Kidron, you're as good as dead. You will have decreed your own death sentence. So Shimei answered the king, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Your servant will do exactly as my master, the king, says. Shimei lived in Jerusalem for a long time. So Solomon was wielding some wisdom even before he asked God to give it to him. He was doing the thing. Verse 39. But it so happened that 3 years later, two of Shimei's slaves ran away to Ashan, son of Makkah, son of Gath. Shimei was told, your slaves are in Gath. Shimei sprang into action, saddling his donkey, and went to Ashan and Gath looking for his slaves. And then he came back bringing his slaves. Verse 41. Solomon was told Shimei left Jerusalem for Gath, and now he's back. Solomon, okay, now he told him, don't leave. Okay, verse 42. Solomon then called for Shimei and said, didn't I make you a promise, or didn't I make you promise me under God and give you a good warning besides, that you would not leave this area that you left, and you would have decreed your own death sentence? And didn't you say, oh, thank you, I'll do exactly what you say? So why didn't you keep your sacred promise and do what I ordered? This is like a gangster. This is better than The Godfather. This is like a gangster movie. Okay, verse 44. Then the king told Shimei, deep in your heart, you know all of the evil that you did to my father David. God will now avenge that evil on you. But King Solomon will be blessed, and the rule of David will be a sure thing under God forever. The king then gave the orders to Benaiah, the son of Jada. He went out and hit Shimei in the head. Shimei done ran out to go and get his servants who left, and he knew that the Godfather or Solomon told him not to leave. They had made a deal. And so now, if you watch like movies, like gangster movies and stuff, if the person violates the agreement, you will look soft if you don't follow through with what you said. And also, if word gets out that this person didn't follow the agreement, but you let them still live happily ever after, then that diminishes your stance. So the king gave the orders, and Benaiah